Well, thank you for having us today. So yeah, hopefully we're going to go over a little bit of understanding some digital jargon. This is quite an interesting time for us to explore this, actually, me and Naomi, who are going to talk today. So I'll do a bit of an introduction for me first. So I'm the head of competence unit in Manchester. I joined Zulka Group back in June, I've been in Manchester for a while, working in Bookie.com and other careers in digital, but this is my first role as head of competence. And it's a really weird title. It's actually looking after the recruitment, the support and development of our colleagues when they join the team, and generally just trying to build a sort of culture and community as part of our Manchester team. I'll hand over to Naomi now.
Thanks, Andrew. So hi, everyone. I'm Naomi Smithers. So I'm Talent Acquisition Specialist for Zulka. So like Andrew, I've only recently joined. I joined during the peak of lockdown in May. It's been a great journey so far. I am very much responsible for the recruitment of Manchester and also work alongside my London counterpart, Stephen. And myself and Andrew, we work very closely together and we've been building the Manchester team. Great. So first of all, thought to give you a bit of an introduction. Who are Zulka? So just to give you an overview, Zulka is an international consultancy that helps companies achieve success by turning ideas into real life results. To do this, we work closely with our customers to deliver bespoke solutions. This could be anything from building an app to revamping a system, or more so our consultative skills. A bit about our history now. You may never have heard of Zulka. I'd never heard of it before, and the same as Andrew, but I think one of my colleagues said it's one of the best kept secrets of Manchester. Obviously bragging a little bit, but we've been established over 50 years. We've got 1,200 employees globally across Austria, Bulgaria, Germany, Hong Kong, Serbia, Singapore, Switzerland, and the UK. And again, our clients vary completely. So what we focus on, though, is basically providing quality service to our clients of all different sizes, right from startups to large-sized corporations. So our verticals include banking, insurance, government, pharma and life science, and utilities. But more than this, so as well, kind of what we hold for and what we stand for is one of the most important aspects of our business is our values. So our kind of core values is courage. So basically having the curiosity, and again, this will very much reflect on what Andrew's going to talk about and myself in terms of starting a career in tech. We constantly challenge the status quo and we're not afraid to learn from our mistakes. And this is the same that applies to anything. If you're going through a career in tech or whatever it may be, don't be afraid to make mistakes. The customer success side, so again, this is key in anything that you do, listening before you act. Outstanding performance, so again, keeping our promise but being realistic, and again, we will reiterate this later on, and our integrity, so taking on the responsibility and working collaboratively in a team. So, thank you, Andrew. So like I said, you've probably never heard of Zulka before, so we're pretty new here, and our ambition, especially for Manchester, is very much to grow our brand awareness and show what it means to be part of Zulka. Our vision is very much not just to kind of grow the brand awareness, but develop the opportunities that we can provide to the local wider tech community as well. And as I mentioned before, we've been in quite a fortunate position that this year has been of great significance. Even during lockdown, we've managed to grow 175%. From 8 people in the office to 22 in our Manchester team. And that's been keeping myself and Andrew very busy over the last couple of months, but everyone has been a great addition to the team, and we can hope to continue that. So what we're doing so far to continue to develop these opportunities and things like that. So obviously Manchester Digital, that's why we're here right now. So our evolving relationship and how we can help. So again, hopefully some of you might find this talk quite useful. Andrew is now part of the apprenticeship scheme with Becky from Manchester, who was on before. Currently, what we do is we offer graduate placements, and we're about to attend a number of virtual career fairs. So again, very much brand new on the virtual front, but yeah, myself and Andrew are very much looking forward to that. So we will have 2 graduate slots. We'll also be looking for interns as well, going into the final year of the degree. Again, we'll have 2 intern slots. So this is very much brand new for Manchester again, because traditionally that they've been based down in London. So great step forward for us, continuing to expand what we do and how we can contribute. And also one of the key things, it's not just about having a degree or, thinking that's the only way into a tech career. Like we said, we are developing our future talent program, and what this might look like, you'll just have to wait to find out. But yeah, it's not just about what we can provide externally as well. Hopefully when people join us, in the future, whatever avenue that may be, we're very much invested about developing your career internally as well and continuing that progression. So myself personally as well, I'm doing my qualification in HR, and I'm quite new, and I've had full support behind me. And I think, that's one of the great things about us.
Great. Thank you, Naomi. So we've given you a bit of background there, and I know that obviously presentations you turn up for, you'll hear about a company, etc. But we know we're so new to the scene. We want to give you a little bit of background to give us a bit of credibility about what we want to talk about today and how we are here to give back to the community. We do think that today's obviously ambition is to hopefully reduce your worry around entering the digital sector by explaining the jargon used, and hopefully also provide some connections with us in the future if you want to talk, or connect us on LinkedIn to offer some support and in moving that career into digital. So with that ambition in mind, why so much jargon? So the digital industry, as with many industries, is full of so much jargon. It covers so many different subjects. It's unfortunate that it often can be quite exclusionary. But what I will do is start with, what do we mean by jargon? Well, the Oxford Dictionary says special words or expressions used by a professional or group that are difficult for others to understand. So it's clearly there, as we say with jargon. It can be something that just causes confusion, or special words that are related to a set area. But I think one thing that, when I was researching for this talk, that stood out for me was a second explanation. So one from Mike Brussel, which was around from the opensource.com website. He talked about jargon having 2 uses. So one is an exclusionary mechanism for groups that keep non-members in the dark. And I find that really negative. And that's why we're here today. We want to talk about it and open that conversation. Unfortunately, it is the case. But at the same time, jargon can also be used in a positive light in relation to a shorthand to exchange information. So we often use it in our teams when we're talking about the way we work, and I'll cover some of them terms there, because it allows a shorthand in the way to explain something. So it reduces an exhaustive detail every time, but it allows you to go to get people in the know very quickly if they are aware of that jargon. So it can have negative sides, and we understand that, hence why we're talking today. We want to give you a bit of an overview of the different types of jargon out there, and hopefully, while I won't explain each word, it's about you recognizing they're in the industry, and unfortunately, it's a case of working with them, and we're very happy to support and help try to demystify them in some way. So, we and Naomi had a bit of fun. We wrote the draft for this presentation, and as we were filling out a Word document with some rough notes, we were like, what are the words that we hear all the time? What are the phrases? And we started to group them up. What are the things that come up a lot that actually we realize that we say in our day-to-day as well, and that actually someone who may be very new to the sector hasn't got a clue about, but may hear it and just think, well, I've got to find out about that. So we grouped it into practices, so ways of working, as we say in the industry, some power phrases, so some elements where people will say these power phrases and you're expected to know what they mean. Technology, so I'm going to cover some areas of technology. Abbreviations, very prevalent in our industry. And then Naomi's going to go on to a bit more about the job market and how, when you look at CVs, when you look at your CV, but also the adverts, where you might see these words and how we can explain a little bit. So if we look at practices, we use a lot of these terms. So Agile is a practice, obviously, that you may have heard of. It's a practice that allows us to work in a certain way. There's somewhat an opposite to that in a waterfall way. So this is a way that we run projects. So in relation to Agile, it's a way of exploring something very quickly and in a way that's iterative and getting something quickly to the customer. With a waterfall way, it's often a case of, it's more of a traditional technique of doing a project and then launching on a set time. So it's right at the end of a project, normally at the end of a stage, but it's more the case of getting to a quite definite endpoint and then releasing it, hence a waterfall analogy of the water cascading over. Kanban and Scrum are words associated with Agile, and you might find that in lots of adverts or ways that people talk about their companies, the way they work. And again, they're terms within the Agile way of project management that we use at Zolka, and it relates to the way that you may run the team. You might have a Scrum team in the way that Scrums run in sprints. You'll see on lots of glossy digital websites around the way that they use boards or Kanban boards, so loads of Post-it notes or even digital boards as well. So these are keywords that are often used around the Agile practices. Within Agile as well, we have ceremonies. So these are not what you would expect externally, like a wedding ceremony or something like that. They're ceremonies around practices of ways of working. So there's things like stand-ups in the morning. So where everyone groups together, normally for a really quick run through the board. So run through a Kanban board or through what's on the Post-it notes or on a digital board. But we also have ceremonies around things like retrospectives. So during a chunk of work, which we would call a sprint, you might have a retrospective at the end where we reflect back on it. So there are ceremonies like that. Within the way we work at Zolka, we also have a lot of discovery phases. So discovery literally is, as the term says, we spend a lot of time working with our clients or with our customers, the end customer, to understand what they want and how best to produce it. So we might not come up with some of the solutions at that point. We might be just exploring the problems that the customer is having, or the elements that the business say, I think this would be better for our customers. Can you explore that? Can you go and discover what the best way forward is? So discovery comes up in these practices as well. Power phrases. So we've grouped these terms because we feel that they get often thrown about as power phrases. So customer first, mobile first, data first. They are strong statements, but really it's about the way that you may work as a company or the way you work as a project. So customer first, it's literally putting the customer first. So thinking about the customer's needs first, making sure that you're fulfilling their needs. It doesn't mean that you work in that inclusive, just that method. You might work in a mobile first or a data first way as well, but it's just about associating the fact that you should always put the customer's needs first. Mobile first is about starting a project from a mobile direction first. So typically if it's a website, a company might be going, actually, before we, or it might be they decide to do an app on a mobile before they do a website. But typically you would design maybe a website from a mobile first perspective, as we see a growing audience, obviously on the mobile device, and depending on the industries or the demographic of our audience, we might go, actually, we'll build a mobile first website, and then it will respond and expand and contract the design to fit the desktop, as in someone using a browser on an iPad or a laptop. Data first then relates to the use of data to drive your exploration, your project. So whilst you might be taking data from a customer's perspective, you might be taking analysis around the way that the business uses as well, or data that business has collected about previous customer usage or the market or the industry. So using that data to drive the way that you drive a project and keeping that in mind all the way through. And that's why when we look at these three top, the first, calling it customer first, mobile first, or data first, really is a way of keeping that in mind all the way through a project to make sure that you're always prioritizing that route. You may have also heard terms like big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence. They're all bold terms that are used, and people think they need to go and learn about everything and anything. But they are all part of a similar group around data and being driven in a way that's autonomous. So from a big data point of view, it's about extremely large data that's been analyzed to reveal patterns and trends. But we do that with our data scientists, and they might then use machine learning to study the computer algorithms, is a study of computer algorithms, to allow computers to automatically improve the experience. So they might nudge you in a particular direction. It might help you make a decision by analyzing that data. From an artificial intelligence point of view, this is obviously more of a science and an engineering which makes computers behave in a way that we probably would have thought a human might have done in the past. So they are very separate terms. Machine learning is sort of on top of artificial intelligence, but they're all data related and often referred to in a way that a company might work and might be driven by. Internet of Things has been around for a long time, but it comes up a lot because it's the way that nowadays, obviously, everything has a sensor in it, whether it's a sensor in a microphone, so something like a device that Amazon provide or an Apple product. I'm not going to say the name of it, otherwise mine will trigger in the background. So yeah, elements of having sensors in that, like a watch that tracks your steps, etc. It's really all connecting that together, and that's that Internet of Things that connects and exchanges that data between the different devices and often syncs up to the internet, to an app or device that you might be tracking. But we often work within the Internet of Things in relation to the way we work with our clients, so that we tie all these things together so we create a really great customer experience for their end user. No. Technology. So this is sort of tons of words that we just thought we'd get you started on. So from a point of view of people who are looking to go into engineering, you might find that people talk about a full stack. So the approach around an engineer having the ability to work over the front end and the back end. I've already put them two words out there, but front end is more around the perspective of someone who's developing something that is shown and visual to the customer. And back end is more around the script that might be run on a server behind that allows that front end to work. So front end is often the next row of words there around HTML, JavaScript, CSS, or native React. So that's that display code, the code that's used to create the display that a customer sees. From a backend perspective, you might have then other scripts, other languages like .NET or Java or Python or Node.js. So these are all elements of the backend code that build up. So if you're looking at a job advert, you might see reference to front end or back end, and it's about them different scripts and them different parts of a product that might be developed. And people often talk about having people who have a full stack approach where they know that front end and back end and can translate and discuss that in a project. On the bottom row here, we talk about the different elements of iOS. So you may have heard of iOS in relation to your Apple device and the way that they do updates. But we also have Android as well, which is obviously a Google-based product and often referred to as AOS. So these are operating systems. And obviously when you're working in app development app development that goes onto an iPhone or an iPad, that's something that might be referred to in a job advert in the way that they work or the way their end product is produced. The other word I put on here is around cloud. So cloud is referred to a lot, and obviously it's become more prevalent in the consumer industry as well. So it might be the fact that you're aware that when you're using your email on Gmail or you're uploading your files into Google Drive, you're aware that it's stored on a cloud somewhere. You're aware that it's stored on a service somewhere that then you can access at anywhere in the world. And obviously we do a lot of development where we work on cloud services. So we work where we can use the cloud to store our back-end code or the front end of a web application. So we can then pull that back in anywhere in the world, and we can use our team anywhere in the world to work on it as well. While we're sticking on cloud, let's move to abbreviations. There's tons of them. I'm not asking you to understand them all, but we're going to cover some of the basics here because it comes up a lot. So cloud, there is two different technologies used in cloud. So Google Cloud Platform, which is GCP, and AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. So this gets talked about a lot. A lot of our engineers that are working with us at the moment are doing certifications in these areas because obviously our clients are looking to work and develop in these systems, in these operating areas of cloud. So that will come up, and you may see that in job adverts and CVs, but it's really about people who have had experience now or want to gain experience. And there is certifications around that allow you to, like they are with other technologies. TDD and BDD. So in relation to what we talked about Agile earlier, these terms come up in relation to test-driven development in the way that people want to develop in a way that they create a test first, or behavior-driven development, which is associated with when you think of a customer first and think about, as a customer, I want to be able to do something. And you often find statements like that in the way that we work. We've also got elements around other roles. So if you think about a designer who works on any aspect of a website or an app, they may be thinking about user-centric design, so UCD. But They also may develop the user interface, which is UI, work on the user experience, UX, or even be involved in UXR, so user experience research. And you'll often find that these often are in job titles as well as written in the text. So UXR especially I find interesting because this is where you might go and challenge it. This can be a role, but it also could be part of a project where you're just going out to research, and as part of that discovery phase we talked about earlier, where you're going to find out more and more about how a customer wants to interact with you, and maybe using prototypes and observing how they interact with that. The last row will connect us nicely to where Naomi is going to talk about in a minute, which is around abbreviations around job titles. And we see this in job adverts when they're not spelt out. So you might have something like a BA, a business analyst, a QA, which is a quality analyst. So someone, it's a title that is associated with someone who's maybe a tester or a quality person who looks after that in a project, while a BA is more associated with the analyst who will find out results and support the team in being driven by the data. So then we're going to cover two other roles there, so a PM and a PO. So I previously was a PM, but I've also been a PO, and it's a phrase around project management or product ownership, and they are actually two different types of roles. Project management or project manager is often associated with someone who manages a project from start to finish, and isn't often associated with product ownership. Sorry, it can often be interchanged with product ownership, and they work in slightly different ways. Project management might flow through sort of a Gantt chart approach where they do chunks of work. It still can be done in an agile way, while an owner often is associated with a vision that they own that product, and they challenge everything to make sure that product is moving forward, rather than thinking about it in a short term around managing a particular phase or approach. So there's a load of abbreviations that nicely ties into where Naomi's going to talk about in relation to jobs.
Thanks, Andrew. So following on from that, so once you've got kind of that understanding, Andrew said, we don't expect you to take it all in right now, but once you have kind of the basics of what those phrases or abbreviations mean, it's about navigating the job market, so taking the next step. So to do that, initially the starting point whenever you're looking for a job is about understanding the job advert. So it's important that you need to understand how to make sense of what a job advert is asking for from a potential employer. So first of all, looking at the level of the role. Now, starting in a career in tech, it's normally around the junior level, or if you're considering doing a placement or apprenticeship, look out for these key things. And obviously, again, starting a career in tech, if you've never done it before, kind of avoid mid-level or senior, but yeah, obviously, you probably know that, but yeah, so junior, there can be many abbreviations. Also about years of experience. Now, ideally, job specifications shouldn't be stipulating years of experience. I feel personally that it's not about the years of experience. It's very much how you apply yourself and the level you associate yourself with. So if you're a junior, it doesn't matter whether you might have just started or you might have, been at that level for 2 years. It's what. And it doesn't mean anything necessary that you're not progressing quick enough or anything. It's what you're comfortable in, and it's what your boundary is. And you take it at the pace you want, and you develop your career the way you want. Next point to look at is the education requirements, if there is any, or if there's any specific skills. So again, don't be put off by job adverts where you might have some skills, but not all of them. You need to, the important thing about kind of obviously, applying for a job is making yourself stand out. Why should the employer consider you over everyone else? And this means selling yourself. So again, don't worry about if you're going for a role, you've never had a career in tech, it's a junior position, you might have done some courses in your own time or anything like that, but you need to show how your current experience can be beneficial and reflect the job you're going for. Next point is obviously getting to know the many wonderful ways into career in tech and at any time. And again, like I said before, it does not mean that you have to be at university doing a computer science degree. That is not the only way in. And there's so many initiatives out there. And again, like Manchester Digital is a perfect example with their apprenticeship scheme. Just Google, have a look around, see what's out there. There's so much support, even meetups as a starting point to get your foot in the door. And again, like I said, yes, quite a lot of people do go to university and get a career as an engineer or whatever, but you don't need to have a degree to be a great engineer, and that's important to remember that. Again, kind of following on from that is knowing what's out there. So, you know, it's not going to come to you. You need to make it happen. Your dream, your ambitions, you need to go out there and source it yourself as a starting point, and have that drive. So this involves obviously networking, as mentioned before, finding any courses or the initiatives. And again, it's how you use your transferable skills and put it into those courses or whatever it may be. And following on from this, obviously, you know, understanding the job advert, understanding the abbreviations, yes, this is all important, but, you know, how do you apply for the job? Well, your CV. So, what makes a good CV? You need to adapt your CV for every job that you go for, so it matches the requirements and you highlight the key areas. So, for example, I know I keep saying it, right, you know, you've not got a career in tech, there's an opportunity that, you know, isn't looking for that. They want someone who has good communication skills or has done, you know, it's how you reflect your, you know, previous work examples into this example. So, for example, even if you've done like waitressing or whatever it may be, as long as you can apply that for yourself, highlight those key areas, then that's ideal. That's what the employer is looking for. But also, it's not about saying everything and anything that you think employers want to hear. It's about being realistic as well. So don't just kind of list everything that's on the job requirement, because again, you know, people do get found out. So it's important that you're confident with what you're saying and you believe in yourself and it is the truth as well. Now, it's important to remember that employers, obviously, they think about, you know, how many CVs they might have to review. So you need to make sure that you put your key information at the top. So even again, if you've not, like I said, you might not have even gone to college or degree or whatever, but if you put, I've got excellent communication skills, I've done this, I've done that, at the top, you're really selling yourself. It's literally your CV is you, sell, sell, sell. And you want to keep your CV short and relevant. So again, you don't want to be making long lists of pages, about 2-page maximum. And also, like I said, it's highlighting the key information, but be authentic, be clean, and be clear, and be confident in yourself. Like, an employer is not going to, you know, consider someone who doesn't believe in themselves. You need to have the belief that, you know what, I am going to get my career in tech. I am going to achieve this, and this is so, so important. And you will get there, and it is achievable. You just need to keep on. Even if you send lots of applications through, do not stop till you get that job, because you will get that job in the end. And obviously with the current climate and everything that's been happening as well, i.e. virtual talks like this, and, you know, video interviews are becoming an ever important process in today's recruitment drive and for companies. So again, myself, you know, I get quite nervous even speaking right now, but I think what you have to do is you have to take yourself out your comfort zone. And like with anything, practice makes perfect. So like with anything, you can only get better. So keep at it, keep going, and be confident and believe in yourself.
Thanks, Naomi. I think to add on to that point, like Naomi was saying, when you were talking about your CV, think about the terms we've talked about, power phrases around customer first. If you have done a role that is in customer facing, then you've thought about being customer first. If you think about the way that you can apply yourself to the terms that may be used in the way that companies advertise themselves or the actual job advert, it's about applying yourself to them terms, if that makes sense. Okay, so we'll just do a quick wrap up. One of the key things that is a really nice thing about being on remote and video, and I thought about this today, is that if you are on an interview or you are on something that you don't understand, Google it. That's a key thing for all of us. I mean, even in my research for this, even though I've worked in the industry for a while, I did go and look for the pure definitions of some of these terms, because I wanted to go, I've always learned through having the confidence to ask the question, which is our next point here. Never feel, if you're in a conversation where someone goes, oh, we do sprints and we do this, and you're like, what do you mean by sprints? I mean, I'm not here to be a marathon runner. I just want to know if I can get the job. You should ask the question. It's really important never to be afraid to ask for an explanation. It's one of them things that goes around that element of being confident about yourself as well. So even if you're not clear on something, please make sure you ask. And as well as what Naomi was talking about in relation to job interviews, with video, audio can be an issue. It's really important that if you're not clear on something, you ask a question, and even whether it's the fact that they're using abbreviations you're not familiar with, or just the way that they're asking a question, please push back. And we want to encourage you to ask for explanations. We hope that interviews you experience are not full of jargon, but it is a natural thing that when we're in the industry that we talk on a day-to-day, it's very hard to drop that. And we don't want to obviously patronize anyone in the way that we've done our talk today or in a job interview. So it is a case of always asking if you're unsure. As Naomi was saying, it's really important for you to build connections. And I think actually involving yourself in these type of events, or following the event that I attended on Monday, a few people have reached out, and that's been great to build connections off the back of these webinars, these meetups. And actually then having conversations with people, it allows you to feel more comfortable with the terms that are being used, with that jargon. I'm not saying you join in with that jargon, but it's about the case of exploring it further so you feel comfortable with what's being talked about. And a lot of these things like ceremonies, as we talked about, stand-ups, there are ways of doing them as in Agile, but really it's just all standing around a board, or digitally nowadays, obviously just standing at a screen. So it's about making sure you just understand the little bits of it. You don't have to know the full jargon language around that subject. There's obviously a Meet the Mentor event tomorrow that a few of the Zolka colleagues are joining tomorrow. So as well as these webinars, find other mentor opportunities like Manchester Digital are running tomorrow that gives you a chance to continue that conversation. And again, at the mentor session tomorrow, please do not be afraid to ask anything, especially if some jargon comes up. LinkedIn is a really great opportunity to read through the articles that people post, to read their comments, and also to connect with people. It's so important that if you want to be involved in this industry, that you build that connections up through LinkedIn. And that's a case of reaching out to them, to message them, or just being connected to them so that you can see what they're talking about and get involved in the industry. There are obviously some important schemes there. I don't know if you want to cover some of the schemes as well, Naomi.
Yeah, so I mean, again, these are just some of the really good ones that, like, local to Manchester, I'm aware of, and that might be worth looking into. So I know there's Code for Girls. So again, I think that's pretty much free. Again, anyone of any age, or even starting, I think it's like after like evening classes for 8 weeks or something. But yeah, I mean, they're fantastic initiative. North Coders as well, they're fantastic as well. So I think normally that's about a 12-week intensive course. Again, really interesting to kind of explore. And Tech Returners as well. I know, so again, I've worked with Andrew at Booking.com, and again, this is a great initiative. So, people with no experience coming in, getting taught on the job, and then at the end of it, hopefully getting employed by, whether it be Booking or another employer, but having the skills there to get your foot in the door. So like I said before, those initiatives, you don't need a degree, you don't have to have tech experience, it's complete beginner, any age or whoever, it's literally, you can do it. You just need to go out there and do your own research. But these are some of the things that might be worth looking into.
And these are the ones that these type of schemes we're aware of really downplay that jargon and get people to educate them into understanding what's being talked about in the simplest of terms. So you get on board and you join that community. So we're talking about them schemes for that particular reason. There is also the JETS scheme that we know that it's just started from the government. So I put a link in here, I'll share it, but we know that they're looking at offering some mentorship, etc., in relation to people moving into different industries. So I put it on as a reference. It's not something I know enough about yet. It's very new, but I just wanted to make you aware that that's there. Okay, so it's time for questions. I believe Beck is going to help us with that.
I'm back. So if anyone's got any questions, sorry, thank you for that. That was brilliant. There's a couple of people in the comments already said they work in tech and they learn a lot, and I have too. So I'm probably going to keep your presentation a little guide moving forward as well. So if anyone's got any questions, if you can put them in the chat box on the right hand side, and we'll start to work through those. So the first one here, we may have covered some of these already as they go through, but Malcolm's asked, is Jargon used by some employers as a kind of pre-filter? So if you can't understand this ad, then you are not a suitable candidate.
No,
I really hope not. I really hope In the conversations we have with the candidates who come through to us, and although I would say that we are not innocent in the fact that I'm sure there is jargon throughout our job adverts. There are adverts out there that are obviously explaining the needs that we have, or hopefully making it familiar for people who have been involved in the industry. But I hope they're not using it as a pre-filter, because I would say a lot of it is when we start talking to our candidates, especially in our phone screening, when we talk about things like agile to them, if it doesn't click with them, we'll often go, well, when you work in your day-to-day, what do you do in your team? And when they talk about, oh, well, in the morning we have a little bit of a meeting and we go across our board, and then after a few weeks we often will have a bit of a get-together to see what's gone well and not. It might be they haven't heard the term retrospective, or it hasn't been used. It's been just something they've been practicing. So we'll often explore that with them, just to make sure that the language is not allowing them to show their experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, I think once you've worked in a sector for a while, you sometimes forget that you're using the jargon because you use it day in, day out. So it's not that you're necessarily trying to trick people, but you just forget that other people don't use that terminology. So I think the point that you made earlier about just Google everything, like everything is available within the matter of seconds to find out what that means. Google it, have a look at. For me, it'd be, if there's certain things in job ads, have a look at not just the ones you're going for, but have a look at things that they talk about on their website or blogs or in the job ads, and make sure you've got kind of that wider understanding as well.
I think just from my side, a recruiter side as well. So when I started off in recruitment, I had no idea. I'm the least techie person you'll ever meet, but it's literally, I would just, I'd speak to candidates and just ask them. So ask people. If you don't understand, like you said, you can Google it, but just ask somebody as well. So like Andrew said before, if you're having a conversation, it comes up and you say, what does that mean? You'll learn and you'd be surprised. People are very happy to explain, things to you. So yeah.
Whilst I do loads of interviews and I recruit people from a wide background that I may have worked with in teams before, but not really knowing all the detail of their job, I find that when I go to interview candidates, and obviously we bring in a specialist to look at their quality of their technique, etc., in their area, I learn so much from them interviews. I learn so much from their experience. I learn from their backgrounds, and just their stories they come with. I had an amazing interview yesterday morning where it's not only about the way they talk about their experience, it's about their stories and how they bring to life what they've been involved in. And that isn't using jargon, it's about them being so enthusiastic about their project or what they've done in the past that's given them that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So do we have any more questions for Andrew and Naomi? I think that may be it. I know there's been some requests for the link, which we are going to send those around. So yes, we will send a full email probably on Monday now, and that will have links to all the videos, all the sessions that have happened this week, and we'll share any relevant links that have been talked about as well. So some of them have been book recommendations, websites, courses, but we'll make sure we gather all those and put that into one place. Oh, sorry, we've just got one more question that let's answer this while we're still on. Has the use of jargon and/or abbreviations ever caused an awkward moment at a crucial time, and how do you overcome it? So, like in a presentation or a job interview.
So jargons can be misheard, if that makes sense. And if you think about it, especially in abbreviations, there are abbreviations that are used in other industries that can mean completely different things, or sometimes abbreviations that are used in teams that can mean something else in real life, if that makes sense. So it does sometimes cause more confusion, but really it's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you get the wrong abbreviation, I say a lot of our abbreviations wrong in the wrong order, and we just laugh about it. And I've been in the industry long enough, so we often use, like I say, just to talk quickly. Sometimes it's much easier to just say, "Oh, I work in user experience," than work in UX.
Yeah. And I would, I'll echo that, because I've actually experienced this in an interview, and I got asked a question and I didn't understand the word that they used. So I asked them to expand on it and explain what they meant by that. And then I came back with, right, yes, I do understand that, but I use this terminology. So I think just asking the question, turning it around, people are more than happy to have that conversation. Like I said, I think sometimes when you're in an industry, you get so caught up in the jargon that you use that you just forget sometimes that it's not kind of transferable. But I think being honest and holding up your hand isn't an issue. It works for me anyway. So